What's popular? YouTube, another day, another demo. I put on a compressor. So for some reason, people say if they watch the videos and the audio is not loud enough, and it should be a lot louder. And I think most people are fine, but for some reason, a few people are saying it's like really quiet. I don't know what that is exactly, but what I did was I threw on a compressor. So that should bring up, I think this is how it works. I don't have a hardware compressor, but I threw it on in OBS, and it should bring the quiet audio up a little bit. The audio gets too loud, down a little bit. I'm in the yellow. What's crazy is like, even on these other videos, I'm in the yellow, like touching red most of the videos. So I don't exactly know what I'm doing wrong in terms of the audio for why it's so quiet for people, but hopefully this is fixed now. So this morning I went out to an American style diner. It's called the Midwestern Diner here in Copenhagen. Got some chicken and waffles, which was actually really good. And normally if you're like out in America and you go to a diner or something like that, you get food, it's going to be way too much food to eat. I mean, you could put it down, but it's usually a lot of food. Here, it was just like a nice portion. Chicken was quite good. Waffles good. It was good stuff. I didn't know Copenhagen was such a foodie city. Like, I think we arrived here and there's this place called Noma, I think it's called. And when our boss is like, yeah, it's like the best restaurant in the world. And we were like, and he's not like the type to exaggerate. So we're like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's a really good restaurant, huh? He's like, no, it's like the best restaurant in the world. And we're like, huh. He's like, yeah, it's like $300 for a dinner. And we're like, oh, it was like really, really high end. He's like, no, it's like the best restaurant in the world. And apparently, or top 3 restaurant in the world or something. And it apparently got rated really, really high. I have to look this up basically, but apparently there's a high percentage of Michelin star restaurants here in Copenhagen. For example, that Thai place where I keep getting takeout, Michelin star takeout, rated best Thai food outside Thailand. And I'll say it probably is the best Thai food I've had outside Thailand, but not as good as Thai food inside Thailand. I'll say that much. Definitely had some insane Thai food in Thailand at even the cheaper spots, honestly. But this stuff is pretty good. But yeah, it's awesome that there's good food here in Copenhagen. So uploading a few different videos. So just kind of trying to reassess some comments here. Some of the comments were like, I'm trying to get the temperature of like what I should be doing next. And I think in general, one thing is maybe we shouldn't do too many videos on one person. Like by video 3 of Brokey, I really didn't have so much to talk about. I feel like some of the recent demos have not been extremely analytical. And I'm looking for it. And when I'm talking or I'm just watching, I'm trying not to talk or say stuff just to fill time. And of course, I always have to find a balance between like what's something someone might have a question about and what's something that I already, like for me, it's just obvious. So I sometimes will explain things, but I'm not always sure if it's worth talking about or not. So sometimes I'll just sit and watch, and I don't like to repeat too many things about mechanics and stuff like that because either I feel like people know it or I feel like I've already talked about it in the past. So I'm still trying to find the balance on this channel. And yeah, sometimes we'll watch a game and it's a game that I already watched. Like we did the Perfecto game was the first time I think I casted it. I casted the Perfecto game or I had watched it live. No, I had watched it live. And then when we did the Coach Lau video on the Perfecto game, I had so much to say because I had so many thoughts while watching it. But like this floppy game, I casted it and I thought it would be a really good demo to watch and talk about. And there were some really key moments at the end, but overall there wasn't too much that I felt like I needed to add to the way he was playing. And there's just certain players that every single thing they do, I'm like, damn, there's so much to talk about here. Like one of the guys recently is VSM. And I feel like with the way he plays clutches and stuff, I can tell exactly what he's thinking even. And I just feel very like in the flow with him when I watch him play. Flush is another player like that. Stewie's another player like that. There's a lot of players that I'm just like, every movement they take, I'm like, damn, that's an interesting idea here. I can see why they even moved to this position. I feel like they're very, very special in that way. not everybody has that, and not everyone has that kind of role either. But I don't know. Those players are probably different for other people as well, where they just understand exactly what that player's thinking. They get where they're coming from. But yeah, if we look at the channel right now, I think a couple of things I want to keep changing or doing differently is to add a little bit more variety in terms of who we watch. So learned a lot about Brokey. Like my opinions about Brokey are more solidified now after this. Learned some cool stuff about Rain. Again, not the most analytical demo. The ZWoo simple ones were interesting, but again, mostly like frag movies. So I feel like I haven't for a while watched a really like a demo where I felt like there's so much to talk about. Tim was pretty good. I thought this one was pretty good. VSM was really good. All these Cloud9. I feel like it's been a while, honestly, since I've watched. JKS was good. Navera was actually very good. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep trying new guys. Might try Degster, who, if you guys know him, Degster HLTV. He just took all the stats bars on HLTV and like maxed them out. Oh, his stats started to come down a bit actually. I don't even know what happened here. They were literally all like green maxed out like 3 days ago. I'm not sure what happened. Look at his rating. This guy's crazy. So, I mean, look at this. This is insane. Not the best teams that he's playing against, but for his level, right? Like nuts. So, want to check out Degster. Might try that in the future and just try some mix of like younger new players and some new players that are older that we haven't looked at. Like we've done Alexi like 3 or 4 times, but his demos are always really interesting. So yeah, just going to keep trying new different stuff. Again, we keep going day by day, analyzing all of Cloud9's matches, having Brokey Week continue on forever. And I'll try to do the Patreon videos soon. And so tomorrow, I think I've got a COVID test tomorrow, and then we travel on Monday to go to Sweden, and then we go DreamHack Masters for 6-7 days, and they have a computer for me there too, so I can do Coach Lab videos there. I don't know what the setup will be like or how quickly I can get everything set up, but that should be fine. And then we come back and we do Blast Fall Finals, and then I go home, and then we go back to regular life at home doing Coach Laos, which is what's crazy how long I've been here already. Some people have watched every video and I've just kind of been here for the entire time. It's nuts. But yeah, I'll do the Patreon. It's coming at 6 days now, so I'll try to do the Patreon video tomorrow or something. They stopped using Anderson Semler for this Blast event because they're remote and there's this audio delay when they cast. That's a bit too much and they don't want to use that anymore. So we're just doing both best of 3s every single day from now on until Anderson Semler actually come over. Of course, Corona makes things really difficult with just who's where at what time, and with Flashpoint and Blast happening around the same schedule, it makes things a little bit more complicated. But for now, we're just going to be doing the rest of the event 2 best of 3s a day, which means sometimes we do 6 maps a day, which is like used to be a standard day, but we've gotten used to doing 1 best of 3 a day and to kind of giving it everything on that 1 best of 3. And now if we go 6 maps, it can be kind of a long day. So I'm trying to do the Coach Labs before the day starts because that's when it's a lot easier. And then, yeah, I think I have the COVID test in the morning tomorrow. So I'll see. There might be a day, maybe 2, maybe none, where I can't do a video because of how long the days are, and I'm not getting a chance to do it after the day is over. But other than that, everything's going pretty good. Hit 40K followers on Twitter. Appreciate y'all. That's pretty amazing. Blast do such a good job on social media that I get so many followers throughout the days that we work at Blast, which is awesome. And lots of people following on Instagram as well, which is really cool. I got to post more stuff there. I'm going to post more stuff there. I actually just kind of stopped posting a lot of stuff, but I should post more stuff there. And the channel almost at 90K. So in 10K subs, we'd be 100,000 subs, which is like a dream. Like who knew that it could get to that on this channel? It felt like it just slowed down and then started losing subs when I was not posting, and the channel is totally revived at this moment. So that's really cool. And now we're actually at that goal of getting to 100K subs and not going to slow down on any uploads or anything like that. So that's it. Life update. Going to keep posting stuff. Going to keep going. Going to keep trying to manage my work and the videos and having fun with this and doing Patreon stuff. And shout out to everyone who's supporting on Patreon. Appreciate you. And yeah, expect another Patreon demo. That'll be good. All right, let's get into the server. So I want to talk about today how to counter a default. So just going to kind of freestyle this one. Basically, the cliff notes from the last video. I'll put these on a playlist. So the first video was called How to Build a Default on Mirage, and then this one's going to be How to Counter a Default. Because at every point of the default, we talked about stuff like where we throw control smokes and then how to approach. And then the question was like, oh, that looks so easy. That's so easy to win every T round. So what do you do if you're CT side? Okay. So on CT side, there are a few things. So let's start right away here in spawn. You come out of spawn, you get into like your default positions. So some good spots on CT side in general. You might have, let's say, a very standard setup here. Ticket and under balcony. Okay, you have two players, one playing ticket, one playing under balcony. You might have an opera ticket. You might be spotting from ticket, something like that. And then you have a player who basically plays window / jungle / connector / stairs. That might be all one player, okay? This is typically your star player is going to play here. Like usually your highest fragging player is going to play here most of the time. And also over on Cat, you're going to have a really high fragging player because a lot of rounds will have something to do with mid. And if they don't have something to do with mid, they're also going to be fast rotates over towards both sites, right? You can come here to rotate into connector. You can fight A from Cat in a lot of rounds, even just holding from this position. You can rotate B and quickly help window. You can easily get into CPL and fight window, and even come here and watch the back of connector. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do being the window / jungle / connector guy or the cat / mid guy. Okay. And that means that these positions are where you put like your Elige, your Nico, your really high fragging players that you can leave alone. You know they're going to probably get 2 kills because there's going to have a lot of opportunities for fights. Your config plays cat, somebody who's really willing to play by themselves sometimes and ask for a lot of support and just be very, very good at communicating. And that is partly how you're going to think about countering a default, okay? Because at a certain point, like the T's you might give up some space, but at a certain point, T's are going to be asking for a fight at one point or another, right? At a certain point, the CTs have to say, no more map control, okay? So let's say, for example, you have those spots. Okay, you've got one ticket, one under balk, one jungle, one cat, and one in the B site. And now let's pull out a T default. So on CT side, this is a very flexible default because you don't know what they're going to do yet. It might be the first rifle round of the game. You don't know their play style. Maybe it's a puggy game. The T's are coming out, 3 players swinging across top mid and taking peeks on everything, waiting to see if you peek window, see if you peek cat, see if you peek connector. They're throwing a smoke here. They're mollying inside connector. Okay, so first things first, countering a default. Well, first, let's talk about this from a purely conditioning perspective. In a vacuum where there's no anti-stratting, you're just trying to establish, right? So the first thing you might do is from the window, you might be trying to hold this angle to see if they try to run through. Let's shut down gimmicks first so that you can see if they try to do any overly aggressive plays. So maybe you're not super aggressive at mid just yet. Okay. So then you cut off this angle, for example. You shut down this one play. And let's say they push through and you kill them. Then that's something they might not do next time. So there you've done some conditioning. Here you might do your peek with a smoke here in connector and peeking over top of the smoke. You throw the smoke down, so if they molly it, you can still peek over it. This might be a semi-aggressive way, I guess, to try to stop some control. Over on cat, you can do a couple things. You can boost up on these bricks here and sit here and look for heads here or look for this with a teammate to help you. You can sit here, you can hold this angle, for example, you can fight this way, or you can just play here and wait for them to come up cat and lock this down. Or you can come here and watch the back of connect. This is a very underrated position. Kind of a random player, but Mihu, I think, is one of the players who plays this the best, who I don't know if he still plays there on Envy, but just watching for the underpass walk up and watching for the back of connector, really strong spot. And then that might be a good way to have a semi-passive, like regular average default. Over on the CT side, you're going to be spotting things, you know, just go bench to play sometimes, go jail once in a while, fall back to empty pillar, throw a molly down where they execute or they jump out the window. That's why you throw the molly here. Because sometimes the nades come over. You don't want to throw the molly in here because then they're already going to come out. So you throw them down here, and then you could play like right here. You can maybe take the fight there. You can hold and wait for a teammate to watch across, this kind of thing. And that might be your play. All right, but let's say you get shut down a little bit. They're coming out middle, and you guys have taken some semi-passive, semi-aggressive positions, but you're dying a few times. You're not winning the duels at mid. If you are winning, you can continue to do what you're doing. No problem. Like, just play your spots, whatever. Don't do anything special. But if you start losing, you need to look for new ways to win. So when you look at the map, right, I think what's important thing to remember that people forget. Let me just make sure I'm still recording. Important thing to remember that people forget. If a team on T side takes mid control, they take it with 3 people, and that's what they've been doing every single round. Then on CT side, you know that they are weak on the extremities. Okay, this is very, very important to remember. I think one thing a mistake people make is that they assume there are T's everywhere. Someone takes a default and they're just even spread across the map and you can't push anything. They're just everywhere. No, there are only 5 T's on the map, okay? On T side, they can fake stuff in general, but let's say you know that there's 3 mid. Okay, very easy situation. Your first response, if they take mid and you're trying to fight it but you keep losing, is to push one of the players who's alone, okay? So in a situation where they're in like a 1-3-1, like on the mid default I talked about in the last video, then here's a spot where you can take your opper or your rifler, push together, whatever, send someone in, throw your deep beast smoke from the back of sight and clear this out and hold here, all right? So what the idea is here, and you can go all the way through. Let's say you go all the way through, boom, you get all the info, boom, you know it's A. You get to this point, you know it's A. Everyone rotates. Super simple, right? Another situation, maybe you don't feel comfortable pushing, but you get to this point. This is still really good, all right? So let's say you get here. Then something basic fundamental principle on the CT side is if you get map control and you get the info this early, that over there by this guy, then your second B player who feels comfortable moving away can start to overstack a little bit, okay? So they can cheat over here, they can sit in window, and now maybe you have a window guy, you have a jungle guy, you have an A guy here and an A guy here. So now you're pretty confident that it's going to be an A site hit, and you get the info early if it's not. So let's say your B guy goes 1 for 1. So now your window guy can start to rotate back if they come to try to explode on it, and you can start to rotate early. Let's say, for example, you had a CT side guy sitting here. He's sitting here in jail, all right? He's alone, and we have the exact same setup. Your other CT who's supposed to be helping out in B, he's rotating over towards window, and he's cheating out. This is when I would call it a gamble. You're no longer working off the information you have. You're taking your best guess because you're really scared and you don't know how to take map control back. All right, so now your guy in jail, he dies. All right, now your CT has to come over, but boom, the T's are already out. There's no way for you to get into a position. Now suddenly you have to play like this. You have to wait and see if they pushed anything. They literally could be everywhere, all over this site. But you see the difference is that he died, but he got the info over here. So that means the T's either slow down, execute afterwards, or even if they run, they still can't be here by the time you get back, right? So that's what's key about pushing for information. And again, because it's a mid default, for example, you have a chance to, on CT side here, get this kill off a push, get the info off a push, or push all the way through, right? Or push all the way through. And then sometimes you're going to be able to get all the way through. But what's really important is not viewing this as a random, risky, stupid push. What's important in this is viewing this as a necessary push. They're squeezing you to get information by taking mid control. So now you can answer back by pushing one side of the map or the other. And at the pro level, there's all kinds of gambles that come in here, all kinds of mental fakes that come in here. Sometimes they'll throw nades. Let's talk about OG, for example. Sometimes they'll throw nades, but it's not a mid default. It's just Alexi B top mid. But they throw nades to make it seem like it's 3 people at top mid, and there's like, okay, smoke top mid, molly on the cross. You've got a flash, you've got flashes that come out mid, high left, and the CTs, they can't peek anything. So from the CT perspective, say for example, you're like, oh shit, okay, I can't peek this. Oh shit, I'm in window, and they smoke top mid. I can't spot the cross. Oh, there's flashes coming over. Oh, they might molly window. They're trying to shut you out of information entirely, so you cannot see anything. So now you feel like there's 3 top mid, right? And that's the more advanced level, is if they bait you into doing that, and then suddenly on CT side, you're like, all right, they're taking top mid control, let's push. But it's actually a B default, and there's 3 players here waiting. Then this guy who pushes dies, and then you can go B for free. You see how that works? I would watch for that in the next pro games that we watch. So this is both kind of how to counter a default and how to take your default to the next level all at the same time. Now, the other extremity push, of course, is to try to go for a palace play early on. So let's say you read this right away. Okay, you think, you're the IGL. You go, okay, they've been taking mid control a lot. It's working. All right, let's go for the B push quickly. All right, so you might go throw your flash on this side and then peek. This would be like the flusha push into A halls, and you take palace control. Man, if you have palace control, you are winning A, okay? Sometimes teams will be able to read into this to you, but not at like at a low level or even a mid level or anything. It's viable at all levels. The reason that this spot is so incredibly powerful is because, of course, it's not something that's going to be cleared from people who are coming out of A ramp. So let's say that they took mid control and then they are going to go for an A split. So they're coming back towards A. They've left 1 player here from the default, and then they're coming back with 2. They're leaving 1 in connector, and then they have the 3 players coming up the A ramp. Okay, they're looking for the split, but you've got a player in CT. He might be opping, something like that. Now you've got a player in Palace here, and he's pushed through Palace, and he's sitting here waiting. He's just gonna try to catch a lurker or something like that, like sit here and wait. And when he hears stuff A, he's gonna start to walk back and take maybe a passive angle, wait to see if he shoots someone in the side of the head, clearing sandwich, something like that. Nope, not peeking this technically right away, but just kind of playing it slow. He's very important he stays alive, okay, because there's 2 parts to this. So then they come up A ramp, they come up connector, and hopefully by this point, you might get a pick off or 2. You might get your CT pick off, you might get your palace, whatever. And worst case, they smoke everything out. This guy's going to sit here for a while, and now you're in the best retake position possible. So you haven't peeked. They might plant the bomb. You're still not overplaying your hand. You're holding CT control. You've got a player over here. This is one of the best post-plant positions in the game. This is one of the spots that if someone's here, like, you're probably going to lose the post-plant most of the time. So if you have this on CT side, you should be at for the exact same reason winning the round. That's why this guy can just sit here. And this is all map control, right? These are great angles to fight from. You probably get the first kill for free, that kind of thing. And the later he comes out, the more effective his flank is. And he can start to clear out Tetris for you. He can walk out, clear out under Balk. He can clear out Firebox, right? He can clear out all of these positions. So all of your teammates who are coming in, super easy for them. And then eventually you can maybe smoke out A ramp if you have CT control, the last good spot that they can stand. And literally just stick this bomb, clear out Apex, and just that's it. You've literally won. So this would be a great position to push versus mid controller versus some kind of default. And sometimes you don't have the time or resources on T side to call it out, depending on how the rest of the round went. Okay. Another way you could push on the A site is, if they're taking a mid default, is to go for a close A ramp setup. Twist did this really well yesterday on Mirage. I think this is something that's really important to watch. You crack spot like this. You throw your molly down. You might have a second rifler here sitting waiting. And then what'll happen is the T's will start to walk back. They'll clear this, right? They'll come through like this. You spot, you throw the molly. Sometimes they swing out wide, and boom, Alicia's standing here to shoot you in the side. And then you would literally want to try to fight this. The reason you play close in this situation, close to the A ramp, is because nades are not designed to land here, right? Nades are designed to land over here. Flashes are designed to pop out here. Mollies are designed to, like, you know, molly out this, molly out this, molly out under bow. Here is where T's need to come out, okay? So that's why it's actually, interestingly enough, safer for the CTs to also stand here and fight. And you can, if you can't get out of the choke point, you can't win, right? And so Twist does this, okay, and then he throws the molly down, and then he literally just smokes it right after. Because let's say the nades come over, and they smoke out CT, they smoke out jungle, whatever it is. Well, your only goal with this single smoke is to counter the smokes that come out. If they don't have smokes out on A site, then they're not going to be able to plant the bomb when the smokes come up, because someone could be tucked in CT spawn, they could be tucked in jungle, they could be tucked over here, they could be tucked anywhere. And that means that if you plant here, if you plant the bomb here, you're open to connector, you're open to jungle, and you're open to CT. If you plant the bomb here, you're open to CT. If you plant the bomb here, you're open to CT. There are no safe plants on the A site. None. You have to have smokes out or somebody to watch something, and that in itself is a risk. So just delaying this A ramp pressure, for example, is huge. And then also, if they're going to go for mid control, that means they're lighter again. They're not 5 players on the A ramp. So potentially, you kill 1 or 2 here on the A ramp, you push, you get control of it. They can't exec. They're not going to feel comfortable coming up connector knowing you have A ramp control plus the rotators. It's the same deal with Palace. So these are a few ways that you can counter a default, both A, B, if a team goes mid control, for example. And now the final way that you can try to, this is all very basic high level stuff, right? Just a final, like these are all different options you could try. And a final way you could come out and try to counter mid is by countering a mid default instead of playing your normal passive positions where the T's have all the specific nades designed for all of your standard spots and you're just getting flashed off, is to fight fire with fire. Get out and try to take mid control as well. Okay. Here you might have your palm tree flash. Oops. Your palm tree flash that goes over connector. You have a player who will maybe come peek inside of connector and just spam the smoke. You might have a player come out here. You might have a player sitting right here, the same position, watching for the underpass lurk. You try to punish the cross with these two people. You have your player in window who might be spamming. You might have someone jump cat to fight as well, and sometimes the top cat smoke will land here. Not exactly like that, and whatever. You can fight it straight on. And the really cool part about fighting it straight on is, funnily enough, and you molly top boxes. The funny part about this is that you're not actually trying to, it'd be cool actually. They could cross with mid. Let's say they do something where they're faking mid control and they have one person and they're throwing all these nades and there's people in the back helping throw grenades or whatever, and then they're crossing. This guy, as he jumps across, this guy can shoot him crossing boxes. He's alone. And let's say you know it's always this guy on the fake, then suddenly you have so much info, right? I need to get water for a second. Gotta be careful with my voice, like really dry in here. Here, let's say they do a fake towards mid. You kill the guy faking mid. Boom, so much info. Now let's say another option. You go for all out mid control and no one even comes. You set this whole thing up. You took a huge risk. You went for all of this mid control on CT side and no one's even there. Amazing. Okay? That's the actual most interesting part. This is even better than if they're there. So now there's no T there. You take mid control and the T's, you smoked a ramp, right? You smoked a ramp, so they can't execute right away. You might remolly it or something like that. You've smoked over at B. And the T's, well, let's say, for example, they're grouping up for an A exec, okay? Let's say they're grouping up for an A exec right now, but you've taken mid control. So you've got basically one person on the A site, 3 people at mid, and 1 person inside B. So you don't have enough players on the A site. But right now, you've got 3 players at mid. All of these players are extremely fast rotations to A, right? A site is very retakeable. It's not a horrible spot to be in. Let's say they take the B site. You've got fast rotations to B. You're just taking over mid control. Once again, you can maybe even fast flank here because you can push the top mid if they've executed and they don't know that you've done this. You can potentially all run up cat with a teammate in the back of the site or whatever with your op who maybe jumped cat to come here and watch this. You have a lot of options for getting to a site quickly with a lot of players. Whereas, for example, if you decide to go the passive route, let's say you go ultra passive, which is something that teams like to do now because Ts are getting so good on default. So let's say you go ultra passive. There's no one in jungle. There's no one in cat. There's no one in jungle. There's no one in window on CT side. You leave this grate intact. Okay, you don't go through window at all, and you play the absolute perimeter of the entire map. You are now kind of locked in, waiting. Okay, so you're going to play against the back walls and like all parts of the site. Okay, you might play someone under Balks, one CT. You play one. I think in this situation, you probably want to have something like this, where you have someone sitting in market window, and since B is less retakeable, you might have the jump spot here on B, and then you maybe have one person off angle here holding cat. This is your super ultra passive setup, waiting to catch someone making a mistake. The problem with this setup, in my opinion, is that when you lose kills, your rotations are longer because you don't have anyone at mid. You don't have a safe way to come through mid because they might have taken mid and left someone here, right? You don't know about this stuff. So when you come to clear out mid, you can't just run through mid and run up cat and run to B. Even if you do, that's extra seconds. Whereas if you were right here, you'd cut down half the time. But now you've got to make sure you clear this out. You got to make sure they have no lurk at top mid. All of this stuff. You don't have info. So you take a risk for the early mid control, and you're rewarded with fast rotations. You're rewarded with early kills. You're rewarded with map control. If you don't take the risk, you might not die early, and you put a lot more pressure on your setup. You might ask, well, why would you ever take this option? And the reason is because the other team might not be great at turning that final corner. Okay, so this is where you kind of have to play off your opponent as well. Like, your strengths might be a bunch of players who are super sick side anchors who just can mow down multiple targets when someone turns that final corner, and they can be very consistent doing that. And the team that is playing you, they're just not good at that final step. So maybe it's better for you, instead of flying out mid and trying to fight them head on every single round, to try to take on a passive setup and rely on your final grenades from within the site and just focus on not dying early. Because some teams, they take too long to execute when they don't see anyone. They're so used to getting early fights, okay? So there's different reasons you might do different things, and different risks as well as different rewards. Like, again, like, that's the risk for playing an ultra passive setup. Your rotations are hampered. You're more susceptible to fakes. You lack information. But on the bright side, you're staying alive for a long time. You're playing uncomfortable angles. You're also you can also really punish and catch a lot of mistakes for too overly aggressive options too early. If you take early mid control, you might die because this might not be a very good fight for the CTs. And if you die early, the whole round becomes a lot harder. It just might not work with your roster, like the way that you guys play. It just might not be your thing. I personally think you have to be able to explore all the options and figure out what time and place to use each of them. But these are just different things that you need to think about when it comes to playing a default and countering a default. And I hope that wasn't too all over the place. I feel like we covered all of that pretty well from a high level perspective. And again, I don't want to get too specific about grenades. Like, I'm not currently playing a lot of CS. I don't remember like all of my lineups and stuff like that. I used to, when I would do it, I used to make videos for my team where I would just show every single grenade I need and every single grenade that's specific. But again, I don't want to, like, there are so many resources out there with just like cover grenades and stuff like that. But I feel like there's not a lot out there that covers like the fundamental philosophies, like how you should approach the sides. Because I feel like you can plug in all of the nades that you need just by watching one round of professional CS and just copying everything. Just literally going through every person's perspective on a default that you liked in a round and copying all their nades. That's all you need to do. Just pick your favorite one. They're all going to work well. But what's really going to win you games is understanding why you need to take these options. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing first and foremost. It's why you do them. And if you understand why you do them, you'll understand the importance of doing them. You'll understand to do them faster. You'll all be on the same page. I think that's what's really important. I really think that that's how I had my most successful season, was just because everyone was on the same page about why we needed to do things. So no one was like second guessing when we did them. Everybody had the protocols in mind. Everyone understood, you know, when I asked like, okay, we got to push B this round, everyone just knew like this is the risk they're going to take. They didn't think, oh, I'm uncomfortable pushing B. They realized this is going to make the round a lot easier for us if we do this now, and we're probably going to lose if we don't. So yeah, you know, we've got the channels full of demo reviews. You can go ahead and find players to play different spots and different sides, and learn how to play just by watching their every single movement. There's tons of nade videos out there to try to figure out how to learn different grenades. These videos are going to be about laying foundational understanding of the philosophy of why you take map control, how you take map control, when you take map control, what the point of a default is, so really basic stuff that you're doing 70% of the time in CS. And the other 30%, the specific knowledge and stuff like that, you can go elsewhere to find that. Okay, so that's how to counter a default on Mirage. And I guess I think we just move on, honestly, and just do 2 per map, and then just keep going on for each different map. And I think that would be the best idea. So yeah, other maps are built differently. So we have verticality on nuke, verticality on overpass, different kinds of mids, like overpass mid, which is like the stairs. Nuke rotations are very complicated. That might be a good one. But yeah, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, thumbs up and all that shit. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.